All right, welcome everyone to another episode of BizzTalk Africa. I'm our host, Jason Schuster, representing BizTech, and we have a wonderful guest today, Brandt Walt, who was actually our very first BizzTalk Africa guest. Welcome back, Brandt. Glad to have you. Also, as always, my wonderful co-host, Vidya Mike, who is the CEO and founder of Questa Solutions. Really excited to have everybody here again today.
Happy to be back.
Yeah. I only see you every single week, Vidya.
Yeah, it's and still that's not enough time, right?
Still not enough. But Brad, it's been a few months, but we're so glad to have you back. This is our first show together, kicked off what has been just way more exciting and successful than I could have imagined. So yeah. I'm just so glad that we did it, and for being our first guest. And so
absolutely, you're like our lucky charm, Brandt.
Thank you very much, Vidya and Jason. I appreciate that. I have to say that I really enjoyed our first conversation. It really got me super excited. And after that show, I got so many questions that came through. And it just showed me how much interest there really is in this space. How many people really is interested in Africa, and how many interest is there from Africa to look at other markets. And so if you recall from the previous discussion, we did mention that we will be talking about the UAE and Africa and how these two influence each other. I think it is a very good, conversation to have, because you can't ignore the UAE. If you talk about Africa, you just simply cannot.
And you're living proof for that, right? Because you are from South Africa, but you're living in Dubai at the moment.
That's correct. So what we have done as BChange is, we focused on the East, and we have our head office in Singapore. And then in the UAE, essentially, is the bridge between Africa, the European, Union, or the European markets, and also working in conjunction with the Singapore side. So we have this bridge, but the UAE has stood up, time and time again as the number one destination for African, trade, and looking at how you could, work together with African businesses. So it's a really good place to be. And not to mention that it's a great place to live as well.
Amazing.
Right. I don't know a single person that lives in Dubai that says, man, I hate living in Dubai. Everyone I know that lives in Dubai is like, man, this is the place. I love living here. They just love it so much. So there must be something about it. I got to get out there one day and check it out.
You're more than welcome to visit.
Awesome. Well, I'd say I am actually, because you guys are open and the US is open. I can actually travel there. Vidya, you're pretty much stuck in the UK, right?
Okay, for all the British fans out there, we are opening up on the 17th of May, so on Monday. And
all right.
British government has done an amazing job at controlling coronavirus. So, I have to make myself feel better for being stuck for months and months, almost a year.
That's right.
But Brandt and I have been talking about Dubai, so it's all right. Without you, Jason, it's not going to happen. We know we need to have the third one face to face.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Okay, let's kick off, Brandt.
Let's kick off. So kind of as Brandt alluded, topic today is doing business in the UAE and Africa. And Brandt, just a reminder for the audience. Can you remind the audience what does BChange do and your role at BChange? And then let's dive into the topic.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. I am the managing director of the BChange Group. Our head offices, I've mentioned, is in Singapore and Dubai, and we have offices in South Africa, also the UK and some other countries that we have representative offices. Essentially, what we have done for BChange is created a platform essentially for businesses to plug and play onto our platform to expand their business operations, their companies, their ideas internationally. So if they want to enter into new markets, we are a facilitator or a business partner for them to help them enter to those markets. And we do this by supporting them in a lot of functions. And one of those functions, as an example, would be if you want to set up a company in the United Arab Emirates or Dubai, we would assist them with setting up the company. We could provide them with a total HR outsource solution, finance outsource solution, IT solution. So we really take away all the headache of that specific, venture and let them focus on the business that they want to do. So that is really what we do. We are a platform and we're very flexible to support our clients specifically to what they want to do. So this is the concept of BeChange, and we get involved in numerous types of businesses and ventures, ranging from private equity all the way to, helping doing mergers and acquisitions, all these type of things. So we get involved in quite a bit of interesting projects, but mostly I would say the core is helping our clients enter into new markets.
Wow. Okay. Entering new markets. Really cool stuff. Yeah, I think that what you guys are doing at BeChange is really cool and really needed, especially in Africa, but also in the UAE. So.
Absolutely. And, Jason, the thing is that if you look at what the impact of COVID has done is it shake the world. But now more than ever, we need to come together and we need to facilitate, economic growth. We need to give entrepreneurs the chance for them to take their ideas and make it viable business, and giving them that support that they need. Countries are taking action, and that I take my hat off for the UAE, how they have handled the pandemic. But in this process, a lot of other opportunities have come to surface. And we are leveraging those opportunities. And there are companies that are very successful during this time. In one of the worst economic crises the world has seen before, companies are growing. So, it raises a few eyebrows, and you need to ask ourselves why. What are those guys doing right? And then other companies are failing, and we have to ask ourselves, why are they failing? So it's a difficult time, but there is opportunity to be exploited.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the silver linings for COVID, and again, it's like you said, it's a crisis. It's been both a health crisis, an economic crisis. One of the silver linings that I see is that there's a lot more business like this being done, right? Biddy's in the UK, I'm in the US, you're in the UAE, but we're all talking together. This has been normalized. They're just working across borders and doing business like we're face to face, but doesn't matter where we're located. That has become the norm. Whereas before COVID, people were like, I prefer to shake hands. I prefer to shake hands to do business. That mindset is disappearing, at least. And those who can get rid of that mindset are flourishing. Those who are holding on to that mindset, they might be struggling a little bit more. At least that's my hypothesis.
I agree with you. I think I'll give you an example of two things that I've seen in the UAE that I've really, shows at how effective the government decision was here, how they effectively managed the process, but how they leveraged the pandemic to their benefit. Traditionally, once you enter into markets here, and if you have let's say in the electrical distribution, you have large transformers, whatever you want to supply to the UAE market, you'll have to go through a very long process to get those products registered and qualified and pre-qualified here. And part of that is also that the UAE will have to send a team to the manufacturing facility to physically inspect the facility and look at all these where does the product come from, and is it according to the standards, etc. And that is a lengthy process where there's actual physical travel happening. What they did is during this time, in order not to stop these processes from going on, they've done it virtual now. So it might be an interim measure that's in place, and they might follow up later on with physical site visits. But they're maintaining the high quality standards, but at the same time making sure that the process still keep on going. And another example is where DP World during the COVID pandemic realized that in order to keep the trade flowing, they eventually started the e-commerce site, which is flourishing at the moment. And it makes it actually much easier for people in Africa that want to send products to the UAE or do business here to register the products and get it through this process. And they could do most of that, or if not all of it, online, where previously there was still a physical requirement to come here to Dubai, be present, and meet the people. And that component of people interaction will always be there. You'll never be able to subsidize that with virtual meetings, etc. But you could or replace it. But you could, for instance, do a lot of the groundwork and the starting work. All the effort to get all the information and get everything to a point where it's almost a success, and then you can follow through on with 1 or 2 visits. But traditionally, it would have taken you so much more time, on the ground to get to that point.
So if I can pause you for one moment there, Brandt, that's a really interesting point. And this is a real good follow through from last week when we had Bureau Veritas, right? Because it is about utilizing companies that could act as that in between. And it's hardly virtual. What you're actually doing is decentralizing your business, right? You're basically saying there's an element of trust for certain types of companies that tick the boxes, that has the capability, that has the corporate governance and controls to be able to do that part of your business in a remote part of the world. Now, there's a 3-prong benefit here, right? It means that people could still make, investments. It keeps the economy stimulated. It keeps things moving. But traditionally, some areas that are so remote where people think, oh, well, I don't know what's going on there. I can't trust anything. It means that because demand is increasing, businesses like BeChange, and you guys have your foothold all throughout Africa. You have all your foot soldiers and stuff like that. You have people on the ground. You're now able to grow your footprint, but utilize the skills, the people, the network that you have to help deliver. So through this mechanism, certain areas that would never have been able to see investment could now see investment. So you're bringing online certain, like little towns and villages and stuff like that. That's a beautiful thing. That's really, really good.
I agree with you. And Vidya, at the end of the day, if you think about what business really is, it's about building trust. You need to have a successful business, and to work with people, new people, and enter a new market. There needs to be a certain level of trust, and you need to reduce the risk as much as possible. It's not always possible to reduce all the risk, but as much as possible. And what we do as a company is we work with qualified people. So if we have to work with a third party, or we bring someone on board, or get a consultant, these people, or companies, businesses, are vetted by us. We make sure we put them through a proper process to ensure that once we introduce them to our client, we are confident that they will be able to execute the work top standard. And we only work with the best. So our consultants are highly qualified, best of the best in the business, and we seek out the top, as far as we can. So that's what we're trying to do. We're building a bridge between these, countries, people, businesses, to essentially put them together and facilitate that transition much faster and more securely for our clients.
Fantastic. So, and again, I love this topic. And Jason, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump all over this now.
It's okay. Right? Hey, this is, I was expecting
this is the norm
today. So you're okay, Vinny. Take off with it.
So Brandt, and I'm not sure if you could do this, but what are the verticals you see really taking off right now in sort of emerging Africa and linking it up with the UAE and probably Singapore? So is it still mining? Is it more energy? Is it agriculture? Where's the demand?
I think between the UAE and Africa, the top of my list would be food security. I think for Africa as well, food security is a big topic. It's very sensitive and very important topic. And if you look at what's happening now with the African Free Trade Agreement, it's making a lot of changes. There's a lot of work that still needs to be happening there. But once you remove all the tariffs and all the headache from trading within Africa, it will open up so much more opportunities. The UAE specifically is a great market for entering, let's say a hub, a transit hub for products and services from Africa to the UAE, and then from here it goes to the rest of the world. And with the logistics and all the the capabilities that the UAE provides, it makes it so much easier to do business with the rest of the world using Dubai as a hub. So I would say logistics, I would say energy and water, the basic needs, it's always in demand. But also, if you look at what the free trade agreement is in Africa is going to provide, it gives access. But now, one thing that comes with that is you need infrastructure, right? So if you want to be able to, now I can sell my products to my neighbor next door in another country, and it's going to be much cheaper. But we all know that trucking is still very relatively expensive compared to using railway. So there would be a lot of infrastructure developments happening and all the add-on businesses to that. So I see a lot of things happening. It's going to take time. I don't expect a boom in the next year or so, but there will definitely be a lot of drive towards those three things: energy, water, your infrastructure, agriculture. Those type of businesses really will pick up. And then all the supporting businesses that will provide support to that, and logistics, of course, which BeChange also get involved in. We facilitate. We also have the ability to get involved in logistics and get specific solutions for our clients in Africa, where it could be challenging. If you don't know what you're doing, it could be expensive and it could be challenging.
See, this is his way of saying, don't do it yourself. Just call us up on BeChange and we will do it for you. We like that. Slick.
Well, it saves time and money. And the most expensive university on this planet is the University of Life. Because if you have to go through so many lessons, and you could do it yourself. It's going to take you 4 years, and you'll probably get all the answers and eventually make all the connections. We've done it. We've been there with our people that we work with are in the industry for 20, 30 years. They know all the people. We understand the business. It's easy for me to go, not easy, but it's easier for us to put together a team that is well experienced and capable to provide a specific solution or to a problem than a company trying to figuring it out themselves, especially if they have no experience in Africa. So that is what we're doing. We're trying to bridge that gap and make it easier for our clients. It saves time and it saves money. That's ultimately what we want to do.
How does the old phrase go? A wise man learns from his mistakes, but a wiser man learns from the mistakes of others, right? So it's like, hey, save yourself the trouble, the time, the money, the losses. Go to someone like BeChange. Let us, we've seen all the mistakes. Let us help you out here.
Right.
I like that.
And the other service as well that we provide that links into all these things is we have a very strong capability to do a proper due diligence and market intelligence for our clients, specifically to the country or whatever they want to do. We can give them inside information into that country and understand really what's happening and what makes it tick, and who the people they're dealing with. That takes a lot of question marks away out of the equation, so that you can really decide whether or not my business plan is actually going to be feasible for that country. So again, that comes to having people on the ground, understanding the countries, how the dynamics work, all these things. And again, that's experience. That's just because we are there and we have people that are there that we could leverage.
So what's actually happening? I mean, what sort of projects do you guys work on in the UAE? And how do you sort of keep the link you have with Africa to sort of continue to grow that business while you're growing what you have in UAE?
Also, in the UAE, we're involved in a lot of interesting projects. Currently, we're doing a lot of restructuring work for clients here that has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So there's a lot of restructuring that's going on. We're seeing a lot of companies that are looking to outsource their HR, for instance, or their finance functions, rather than keeping a bulky, employee, having 100 employees. They would rather, focus on getting their business up and running and sustainable during this period of time. And we provide a cost-effective, highly professional service to our clients. That all the risk essentially is taken away from them, so they don't have to have employees on their visas and do all the service benefits and all these things that come with having employees. Rather, they come to us and we provide them with strategic solutions. And what makes us unique is we don't just do one thing. We give them the HR, the finance, and then if they need, for instance, more business, we have a very strong business development function as well, which is a unique product. And what we do essentially is we understand the client's business, and then on our network, we try and help them grow. We find them partners, we find them offset points. We look at what, how we could help our clients to actually grow as well. So we don't just support them, we help them grow as well and survive during this challenging times. Wow. And then, for instance, in Africa, we've just completed a few mergers and acquisitions there. One was a very large logistics company that entered the African continent, and we're involved in some interesting trade opportunities as well, helping African businesses that want to have products and services looking to come into the UAE. Each client has a unique need. That's what I think makes us unique, is that we very, very carefully listen to what they want to do, and then we develop a custom-made solution for the client. So yeah, it gets in, and we're also involved now in some solar projects, very exciting solar projects coming up, and putting the teams together to execute those. So there's a big drive towards the renewable energy side as well.
I like that. Biddy, I'm gonna cut in for a second, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, of course. You could from time to time, right?
Again, we're talking about so many different things, so this might be somewhat of a pivot, but the more you talk, I'm just curious. What are the biggest similarities between doing business in the UAE and Africa? Like, for instance, let's say I'm already doing business in the UAE. What can I expect if I want to go do business in Africa? What can I expect to feel the same, or vice versa? Because you know what I mean? Like, because we can't talk about one without the other, but they also seem like pretty different places. But where's the overlap?
I think the similarities are in the fact that, what works in one country might not always work in another country, but the similarities would be the type of businesses that for instance work, in Dubai. You have a very robust restaurant business, as an example. Okay, so there's a lot of restaurants around Dubai, and they are very successful, and they keep adapting to the market as it's developing and changing here. But for instance, to go into South Africa or in Africa, it would be a different approach. But that same business that concept might also be very successful in that country. But again, I think there is a lot of differences between these countries, and I think ultimately you'll have to look at the culture, because there's cultural differences, like very, very different cultures. The way of doing business is different, but at the same time, the challenges are real, that you want to reduce your risks as much as possible. And in Dubai, to give you an example, would be here there is no tax. All right, so you have VAT if you import products into the country, but if you just export it out, so there's zero tax, zero VAT. So in Africa, you still have that challenges. You have a lot of fees, you have a lot of things, so it becomes costly in terms of understanding really where do I have to pay my fees? Because we call it cost of business, in Africa, but in some cultures in Africa, or in general, it's accepted. Okay, and I need to be sensitive here, but the way of doing business there would have what we would call a bribe in the Western world. They refer to as cost of doing business, if you get my meaning.
I do. That's
the similarity. I would say the only thing that I could really see that's similar is in the UAE, for instance, it's still a very much relationship-driven business market. And knowing the right people, being trusted, and if they know you and you have a personal relationship with these parties, it opens up a lot of doors for you. The same goes for Africa. Okay, so if you want to be able to really be successful, you need to have a network there. You need to know who you're doing business with. You need to have strong relationships with those parties and maintain those relationships. That is also the thing that B-Change does. We introduce you. There's a saying in the venture capital arena that if the best way to approach a VC firm is by having a proper introduction. You could probably meet the guy on the streets and give him a 10-second, and 10-second pitch to your project. Your success rate might not be as high, but if you have a proper introduction to that investor, to that VC firm, they might really seriously take a look at your proposal. So the same goes here. If a client comes to BChange and say, look, I have this business in Africa, I want to come to the UAE, where do I sell? How can I do a joint venture? What can I do? We would find solutions for them and introduce those parties. And by having that introduction, both parties know that we have done our due diligence and we have vetted both parties and we see an alignment that makes it so much more attractive for them to work together, as opposed to them not knowing each other and not trusting each other and not having that bridge. So that is essentially, I think, to answer the question that you asked me, it's both markets is mainly relationship driven markets. So it really is comes to down to that variable.
Okay, got it. That makes
a good question though. I like
it. Well, yeah, I figured if I asked you what's the difference between doing business in these, we could be here for 3 hours because there's probably tons of differences. But
yes.
Similarities, there's got to be some similarities. So okay, perfect. That makes total sense. Relationships. It's all about relationships. I also found it interesting your comment about the cost of doing business. Biddy, who was it a few shows ago that said that the average number of middlemen in an African commerce is like 27 or 28 or some, it's crazy. The rest of the world, the highest is like 12.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
That.
And these were the guys from South Africa with the farming chain, where to get it from the farmer to produce to the end. You have all of these people. But what happens is that, the farmers who are the core people, their cut is so tiny because you have to pay everybody in between, and it just doesn't work. If you are going to stimulate an economy, if you are going to, cause change to happen, the people who are making the investment into producing and manufacturing need to get more money, so that they can continue to put into it. They need to have a decent profit. They need to be able to plow capital back in and then expand. Without expansion, you just can't do it. And what these guys have to understand, with the expansion comes, you get to hire more people. You deal with that. Taxes for the rest of the world out there, I believe taxes is not a bad thing because, it helps an economy grow. So it's okay. And this needs to be paid, but paying people to do their job, bribes and stuff like that, come on.
It's a real challenge.
Cost of doing business, right, Brandt?
Yeah, cost of doing business.
Cost of doing business.
It's a real challenge, and it's endemic in Africa, and it's not just Africa; it's the world. I think people keep, they call it different names, etc. But in Africa, it's a very specific challenge, and that's what we try and reduce. When we verify clients, or parties in Africa, we take these things into consideration as well, and we manage those expectations very carefully because it's always a fine line to walk. You need to be professional, especially if you work with big corporates. And there's a lot of big companies in Africa that is very resistant to change due to these factors. And we can't kid ourselves and steer away from these things. We need to face them. We have to identify these problems, and we need to acknowledge that they do exist and find a solution around them. That's the only way forward, and that's how we're going to make change. We will be able to make a big difference in the world, by taking these challenges one by one and just dealing with them. So that's what we're aiming to do. We really want to reduce that headache from the client, because there's a lot of surprises that suddenly pops up the moment your money hits the account there in Africa. And then, we want to reduce that risk. We want to make sure that the clients are well taken care of and they know what they can expect.
So Brandt, a few minutes, no minutes to go. I'm going to put you on the spot right now, live with everyone, and say to you, okay, we've had another guy on this session, Samson, from Nigeria with vertical farming. I want to put you and Samson together And then what we do in 2 or 3 months' time, we do another session with both of you and let everybody know how Be Changed helped Samson to grow and how Samson helped Be Changed to get into the Nigerian market of agriculture.
Sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to meeting him.
That is the BizzTalk Challenge.
Ah, okay. Viddy the matchmaker. I love it.
Yo, my mom will be so proud of me.
I am proud of you. Actually, no, it's a great idea. I feel that's a good match. That's a good match. But yeah, we are out of time. And as always, I mean, we have another session. I know we do. Easy. There's enough content here for another one. So, Brandt, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing with us what you're doing, what Be Change is doing, your insights. I definitely feel I feel better educated, and I'm sure that our viewers do as well. And
absolutely.
Thanks. I'm glad that it could help someone. I hope it could, the information could help someone. Sorry, Jason.
No, I was gonna say no. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm certain that the spotlight on Be Change is gonna result in good things. So people need to know what's available to them. What resources are available. So thanks.
And Vidya, I know you always like to put me on the spots, but I'm a guy that I like to take on challenges. I'll never say no. So I'm looking forward to the introductions, and we could see how we could show to the world what we can do. And
absolutely. BizzTalk have the rights to all the marketing and information and putting this out into the market. So just saying, there you go.
Where's my attorney?
Offline chat after this.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
You too. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.